Good morning, grade 6, and welcome back to another exciting week in Reading Comprehension. Today we're going to be going over literary devices. And if you would focus your eyes on the screen, you will see 4 types of figurative languages we will be focusing on today in our lesson. My name is Miss J. Stubbs, and I will be your facilitator for today's lesson. Let's go ahead and see what our objectives are for today. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to identify forms of figurative language such as metaphors, idioms, hyperboles, and similes. 2. To explain the literal meaning and figurative use of words. And 3. To interpret and express sensory impressions, that is, your thoughts and feelings gained from a given selection. So let's go to our next slide. Have you ever heard these statements before? My backpack is so heavy, it weighs a ton. Or have you heard, it's raining cats and dogs outside? Really? What about, he played it as cool as a cucumber? And lastly, he's the black sheep in the family. Well, if you have, know that they are all examples of figurative languages. Using figurative language creates images for anyone reading or listening to it. The writer may use comparisons, exaggerations, or repetitions to make his or her writing more interesting for the reader to read. These images help you to see exactly or visualize exactly what the author is writing about. So the 4 types of figurative languages we're going to focus on today are similes, metaphors, idioms, and hyperbole. Let's go and figure out what a simile is. A simile compares 2 unlike things using the words like or as. For an example, the fog was as thick as a blanket around us. Which 2 things are being compared here? If you said fog and blanket, you are absolutely correct. The fog is being compared to the thickness of a blanket. Let's go to metaphors. A metaphor is a figure of speech that directly compares one thing with another. And notice metaphors do not use the terms like or as. So let's look at our example sentence. The sun was a glowing orange ball of fire. Which thing is being compared directly with another? If you said sun, an orange ball of fire, you are absolutely correct. The sun is being compared to a glowing orange ball of fire. So, let's have a face-off with similes and metaphors to see how they are alike and how they are different. There's a picture on the screen. It's an oven in a room. What simile do you think they came up with for this picture? The room is as hot as an oven. What do you think the metaphor is going to be? The room is an oven. Notice the difference. The room is as hot as an oven, and the room is an oven. See the difference with the simile and the metaphor? So in this case, we see that the room and the oven is being compared in the simile example, and then with the metaphor, directly comparing the room as an oven means that it's extremely hot. So we're going to move on to our next slide. Idioms. Let's find out what an idiom is. An idiom is a phrase that says one thing but actually means something quite different. For example, go out on stage and break a leg, boy. Do you think the author really means to go and break a leg, as you see in the picture there? No, this statement doesn't literally mean to go break a leg, but the writer is saying to go out on stage and do your best, please the crowd. And lastly, let's go over hyperboles. A hyperbole is an exaggerated statement with humor used for effect. It helps readers to understand the extent of the emotions, attitudes, or feelings used. So let's look at our example sentence. Oh man, my feet are killing me right now. Alright? The author's not meaning that the feet are actually killing them or literally killing him. But what the author's trying to overemphasize is the pain that is coming from his or her feet. Everybody understands that? So, let's go over our literary elements trivia. You're going to match the definition to the correct figurative language below. Number 1. An exaggerated statement with humor used for effect. Is that A, simile, B, hyperbole, C, idiom, or D, metaphor? If you said B, hyperbole, you are absolutely correct. Let's go to number 2. A figure of speech that directly compares one thing with another. If you said D, metaphor, you're on the right track. Way to go, boys and girls. Let's go to number 3. A comparison of two unlike things using like or as is, yes, A, a simile. And number 4, a phrase that says one thing but actually means something different is, there you have it, an idiom. So your answer should have read B, D, A, C. Very good, boys and girls. You're on the right track and paying close attention today. Let's go to our next slide. So, what's your catch? You're going to look at the pictures below. Come up with a figurative language for each one. The first picture is a picture of a Grinch. You're going to come up with a simile. The second picture is a picture of a spinning top. You're going to come up with a metaphor. And the last picture is the picture of a cat with a boy and he's holding his tongue, which is an idiom. You're going to come up with an idiom for that. Pause the video, give yourself a few seconds, write down your 3 figurative language statements, and then you're going to share them. Alright, and we're back. Now, you would have shared your own with someone that is sitting next to you, but I'm going to share my own with you. For the simile I came up with, Susan is as miserable as a Grinch. For the first picture. The second picture with the spinning top, the metaphor I came up with was, Johnny's life is a top spinning out of control. And lastly, the idiom. What's the matter, Dawn? Cat got your tongue? So everybody saw my 3 examples and how I used those pictures to come up with a statement using figurative language. Very good, boys and girls. Now let's recap our lesson. And you can go ahead and practice more and more of these similes, hyperboles, idioms, and metaphors and use them in your writing to make your writing more interesting and creative. So first question. Why do writers use figurative language? If you said writers use figurative language to make their writing more interesting, you are on the right track. Question number 2. List 4 types of figurative language mentioned in the lesson today. I hear you, and that's correct. If you said similes, metaphors, idioms, and hyperboles, you're on the right track. Question number 3. Differentiate between a simile and a metaphor. If you said a simile compares two unlike things using like or as, and a metaphor directly compares one thing to another but does not use like or as, you're on the right track. Very good, boys and girls. Let's go to our next slide for question number 4. What then is an idiom? If you said an idiom is a phrase that says one thing but actually means something quite different, you're on the roll. And lastly, what is our last question? What is a hyperbole? If you said a hyperbole is an exaggerated statement with humor used for effect, you are absolutely correct. Great job today, boys and girls. You were paying close attention to the day's lesson. These are our resources. And I want to say to you, you've made a terrific audience today. Tune in next week for part 2 of Literary Elements. See you next time. Thank you and goodbye.